My husband sent my son a big Lego set for his elementary school graduation. At first, he was thrilled, eyes lighting up as he saw all those colorful pieces. Then suddenly, he froze. "Mama, what's this?" I leaned in closer and my heart stopped. I screamed inside, but didn't let anyone see. I took action right away. 48 hours later, 911 was at his door. "I'm Keisha." Jamal's elementary school graduation day was supposed to be just a simple afternoon in our Detroit neighborhood. Nothing fancy. Our backyard in the heart of the city, right off Woodward Avenue. Some folding chairs, Jet's pizza delivery from the spot on 8 Mile. A few of his 5th grade friends laughing, music playing from a Bluetooth speaker. Old school R&B mixed with some Motown classics. I wanted to make it special for him, something he'd remember before heading into middle school in the fall. The package from Darnell arrived right when everyone was cheering through the gifts. Big box, shiny wrapping, red bow tied perfectly as always. The card read, "Congratulations to our son." Jamal tore it open and gasped when he saw the huge Lego set he'd been dreaming about, the one he'd circled in every catalog, pointed out at Target on Gresham. He sat right down on the porch, started snapping pieces together, grinning ear to ear. Then he stopped. His face went a little pale, and he pointed to something under the plastic on the side of the box. "Mama, what's this?" I smiled, leaned down to look closer. Beneath the thick plastic, there was a hard, square edge that didn't belong on any Lego piece. My stomach dropped. Something was wrong. Very wrong. I kept my voice light, laughed it off. "Let me check it later, baby. Keep building." I carried the box inside, set it up high on a shelf, came back out, kept smiling, clapping, taking pictures like everything was fine. But inside my head, everything had already changed. What do you think I did next? Did I go too far or not far enough? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, you won't see it coming. The last car pulled away from the driveway, and the house finally fell silent. I waited until Jamal was settled in his room, controller in hand, lost in the new game his friends had been raving about all afternoon. He looked content, that perfect kind of tired kids get after a day full of excitement and running around. I told him he could play for another half hour before lights out. He nodded, eyes glued to the screen, already deep in whatever level he was on. Once I heard the familiar music and sound effects starting up from behind his closed door, I headed back downstairs. The Lego box was exactly where I'd left it on the kitchen counter. I picked it up with both hands, holding it steady, and carried it through the hallway into my small home office at the back of the house. I nudged the door shut with my foot and placed the box on the desk directly under the adjustable lamp. I didn't flip on the overhead light, just the desk lamp angled low. I wanted clear visibility without making the whole thing feel like some late-night investigation. I pulled open the top drawer and took out a pair of small scissors. The factory tape was still sealing the flaps securely. I cut along the seams, carefully, taking my time so I wouldn't tear anything underneath. When the top folded back completely, I removed the thick instruction manual first. Then each numbered bag of pieces, stacking them in order on the side table, so nothing got mixed up. The compartment was there, molded into the base tray like it belonged, but the edges didn't quite match the rest of the plastic. I pressed gently on what looked like a false panel, and it popped up with a soft click. Inside sat the device, a compact black unit no bigger than a matchbox with a tiny glass lens on one face and a couple of thin wires leading to a flat battery attached underneath. It was secured with strips of black tape that stood out against the bright colors around it. My hand stayed steady the whole time. I took my phone out of my pocket and switched to the camera. I started with wide shots of the open box, then moved in closer. Top view, side view, angle from above to show depth. I made sure the lens caught the serial number etched on the edge and the way the wires were routed. I took more as I carefully lifted the panel higher. Then again, after easing the device halfway out using the tip of the scissors so I wouldn't leave fingerprints. I laid a clean sheet of white printer paper on the desk and placed the device in the center, additional photos against the plain background. Front, back, every side. I zoomed in on the lens, on the battery label, on the tape holding everything together. When I was satisfied I had enough documentation, I slid the device into a clear plastic zip bag I grabbed from the supply drawer. I squeezed out the air, sealed it firmly, then sealed it a second time for good measure. I wrote the date on the bag with a black marker and folded it once before placing it inside the locked bottom drawer of my filing cabinet, right next to the folder with our important papers. I turned the key and tested the handle twice. I sat back in the chair and looked at the now empty box. The Lego bags were still sealed and organized. Whoever did this had opened a brand new set, added the device, and resealed everything to look untouched. I opened my phone one more time and ran a quick search, just the basics. Shape, size, lens, battery configuration. Within minutes, it was clear this wasn't any official Lego component. It didn't belong in any set ever. Someone had put it there deliberately. I cleared the search history, turned the phone off and on again out of habit, then set it face down on the desk. I left the office quietly and went upstairs. Jamal's door was still cracked open the way he likes it. I pushed it wider just enough to see inside. He had fallen asleep with the controller on his chest. TV paused on the game menu, room lit softly by the screen. His breathing was deep and even. I stepped in, removed the controller gently, set it on the nightstand, and pulled the blanket up over his shoulders. He didn't stir. I stood there a few seconds longer, watching him. Tomorrow he'd wake up excited to build that set. I'd have to figure out how to handle that conversation. I pulled the door almost closed again, leaving the usual strip of hallway light. Downstairs, I filled a glass with water from the kitchen sink and stood looking out the window. The backyard was dark except for the glow from the neighbor's porch light, the faint sound of cars passing on 7 Mile Road in the distance. The folding chairs were scattered where we'd left them, a couple of empty pizza boxes on the picnic table. Tomorrow I'd clean everything up. Tonight I had decisions to make. Later that night, I sank into the living room sofa with my phone in one hand and the laptop open on the coffee table in front of me. The house was completely quiet now. No more game sounds from upstairs. No distant traffic noise from the street. Just the soft hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen and the occasional creak of the floorboards settling. I couldn't sleep. Not yet. My brain wouldn't shut off. The only question that kept looping was simple but heavy. Why would he do this? Why would Darnell, my own husband, Jamal's father, plant something like that in a gift for his own son? I needed to understand the motive. So I let the memories surface, one after another, forcing myself to look at them straight on for the first time in years. The first thing that came to mind was Darnell's obsession with control, especially financial control. When we first got married, I thought his attention to money was just being responsible. We lived in Southwest Detroit back then, a neighborhood where every dollar mattered. He'd sit at our kitchen table with spreadsheets, tracking every expense down to the penny. "Money is power, Keisha," he'd say. "Lose control of it, and you lose everything." But it went deeper than that. He didn't just want to manage our household finances, he wanted oversight of everything. When my grandmother passed away and left me a small inheritance, he immediately had opinions on how it should be invested. When I got a promotion at the hospital where I worked as a nurse in Dearborn, he wanted access to my direct deposit. It wasn't advice. It was ownership. Even after we separated, and I moved to our current place near Palmer Park, the habit continued. He'd call just to check in, and within minutes ask about Jamal's college fund, or whether I was maximizing the savings account my aunt had set up for our son. It wasn't concern. It was surveillance. He always needed control over money that wasn't his. I pulled the blanket tighter around my shoulders. Those conversations never felt like partnership. They felt like audits. Next came the subtle undermining, the way Darnell had slowly, methodically chipped away at my confidence as a mother. After the separation, when I was doing everything on my own, he'd show up with groceries or gift cards, always with that concerned look on his face. "I just worry about you handling everything alone, Keisha. It's a lot for one woman." He'd sit at my kitchen table, coffee in hand, and list all the ways single parenting was challenging. Boys need their fathers. Are you sure you're getting enough rest to stay patient with him? It sounded supportive on the surface, but every comment carried the same underlying message. I wasn't managing well enough without him. He'd praise Jamal to his face, then text me later. "He's such a good boy, but he could use more structure. Maybe more time with me would help." He positioned himself as the safety net I apparently needed. He always believed I wasn't good enough to make decisions on my own. I set the phone down for a moment and rubbed my eyes. Darnell's style was calculating, methodical. Undermine confidence, create dependence. He always thought I couldn't handle things without his guidance. The third memory was the clearest and the most painful, the trust fund. My Aunt Lorraine, my mother's sister, died 3 years ago and left $175,000 in a trust specifically for Jamal's future education. She'd been a teacher in the Detroit public school system for 35 years, saved every penny she could. The will was explicit. I was the trustee, with full discretion on use for school-related expenses. No access for anyone else. Darnell was there when the lawyer read it. I saw his jaw tighten, that muscle near his temple jumping the way it does when he's angry but trying to hide it. That evening, when he dropped Jamal off after their scheduled visit, he started. That's a lot of money just sitting there. Family resources should benefit the whole family. Over the years, the suggestions grew more direct. Holidays turned into discussions about temporary borrowing for his car payments or rent. I'll pay it back with interest, Keisha. I'm his father. Birthdays brought text messages with ideas for investing the fund differently, always in accounts he could monitor. He framed it as practicality, but it was entitlement. The money was Jamal's, protected for him by Aunt Lorraine, a black woman who knew what it took to build something in this world. Yet Darnell acted like it was a shared account waiting for his approval. He never accepted anything staying out of his reach. I leaned forward, elbows on knees, staring at the dark screen of the laptop. The pattern was undeniable now. Control over finances, doubt about my parenting, resentment toward money he couldn't touch. Putting a listening device in Jamal's gift wasn't an impulse. It was a calculated step, reconnaissance to collect information, build a case, gather proof that I was failing so he could justify stepping in. For the trust fund, for influence, for control. The realization settled heavy in my chest. This was bigger than a weird gift. He was laying groundwork for something more serious, maybe even a custody challenge. I finally closed the laptop and turned off the lamp. The room went dark except for the faint glow from the streetlight outside. I stayed on the sofa a while longer, listening to the quiet house, the distant sound of a siren on the Lodge freeway, knowing tomorrow I'd have to start protecting us for real. The next morning, I arrived at Shanice Mitchell's office earlier than most people even start their commute. I texted her the night before and she replied immediately, "Come first thing." Her building was in downtown Detroit, right off Woodward Avenue near the Renaissance Center, the kind of place with secure parking and a lobby that smelled faintly of coffee from the cafe downstairs. The receptionist wasn't in yet, so Shanice met me at the door herself, key card in hand, and waved me through to her private office at the end of the hall. The room was organized but lived in. Stacks of files in color-coded folders, a few framed photos of her with what looked like her own kids at HBCU graduation ceremonies, Howard and Spelman diplomas on the wall, and a large window letting in the early sunlight over the Detroit River. She motioned for me to take the chair across from her desk and poured me a cup of coffee from the pot on the side table without asking if I wanted one. I accepted it gratefully. My hands needed something to hold. I placed my phone on the desk between us and opened the photo gallery directly to the folder I'd created. This was hidden inside the Lego set Darnell sent for Jamal's graduation gift. Shanice took the phone and began scrolling. She paused on each image, zooming in methodically, the device against the white background, the close-up of the lens, the serial number, the taped wires, the false compartment in the box tray. Her face remained neutral the way lawyers do when they're processing information, but I saw her pause longer on the shot showing how cleanly it had been installed. "This is a combined audio recorder and GPS tracker," she said finally, setting the phone down carefully. "Not some toy add-on. Someone modified a factory-sealed set to include this. That's deliberate. That's what I thought." My voice came out steadier than I felt. "It's locked away now, untouched since these photos. Perfect. We'll get it to a forensic examiner when the time comes. Chain of custody starts with you." She made a note on her pad. "Walk me through why you believe Darnell is behind this." I gave her the condensed version. The lifelong pattern of financial control, the subtle undermining of my parenting, the repeated pressure around Jamal's trust fund. I kept it factual, no extra emotion. She listened, pen moving quickly, occasionally asking for clarification on dates or specific conversations. When I finished, she flipped back a page in her notes. I ran preliminary checks after your message last night. Darnell hasn't filed a formal custody modification petition yet. However, he has made contact with the Wayne County Family Court clerk, submitted an inquiry form, and sent a notice of intent to seek primary custody. His stated reasons cite concerns over your financial stability and emotional well-being as a single mother. I felt the air leave my lungs. He has no grounds. I've supported Jamal completely. I work full-time at the hospital. We have our own home. Exactly. Which makes this device critical. Shanice tapped the phone screen. This is precisely why he needs surveillance, to manufacture evidence against you. A recorded argument on a bad day, money worries spoken aloud, anything he can edit or strip of context to paint you as unfit. She turned to her computer and pulled up a document. The trust fund factors heavily here. $175,000 from your Aunt Lorraine, designated solely for Jamal's education with you as sole trustee. If Darnell gains custody, even shared custody, he gets a foot in the door for financial decisions. You've mentioned his past requests to borrow from it multiple times. Car repairs, rent, family emergencies. Always framed as short-term, always with promises to repay. Every single time. That's the angle. Make you appear irresponsible for not utilizing available resources, while presenting himself as the prudent choice. Shanice closed the file. He's in the preparation phase, gathering information, building narrative. No emergency filing means no immediate removal of Jamal, but we can't wait passively. What do we do now? We prepare the counterattack, document every interaction with him from today forward. Save texts, emails, voicemails. Keep a log of any visitation requests and how they're handled under the current schedule. We'll compile your financial records, steady income, bills paid, savings contributions, school reports for Jamal, teacher statements if needed. The device becomes our centerpiece, illegal surveillance by a parent attempting to undermine the other parent's custodial rights. She handed me a printed checklist. Start collecting these, references from friends, pediatrician notes on Jamal's well-being, records from your employer showing stable work history. The moment he files officially, we respond with our own motion, highlighting invasion of privacy and parental alienation. With physical evidence like this, judges in Wayne County take it seriously. I folded the list and tucked it into my bag. The coffee had gone cold, but I drank it anyway. For the first time since discovering the device, I felt ground under my feet. Not panic, purpose. Shanice stood to walk me out. He's expecting hesitation or anger from you. Give him neither. Stay methodical. I will. I meant it. In the elevator down, I watched the numbers descend. He thought he was collecting leverage against me. Instead, he'd given me the strongest weapon possible. A few days later, the weekend arrived, the one where the temporary court order allowed Darnell to take Jamal for a few hours for their scheduled visitation. Shanice had warned me it would happen unless we had grounds to block it completely. The judge had maintained the existing custody arrangement for now. Every other weekend, daytime only, pick up and drop off at a neutral spot. I hated every part of it, but I stuck to the letter of the order. Friday evening, I unboxed the smartwatch I'd ordered with rush delivery. It looked fun, bright screen, games, basic texting, but the real feature was the hidden SOS button. One long press sent an immediate GPS ping to my phone and started recording audio for up to 30 minutes. I called Jamal into the kitchen after dinner. He hopped up on a stool, curious. I slid the watch onto his wrist and adjusted the band. "This is important, okay?" I said, keeping my tone light but serious. "Tomorrow, when you go with your dad, if anything feels off, if he takes you somewhere different than what we agreed on, or if you just get uncomfortable, press this button here and hold it." He studied the screen. "What does it do?" "It sends me your exact location instantly and lets me hear what's going on. I'll come get you right away. No questions, no trouble." He nodded slowly. "Like an emergency thing?" "Exactly. Only use it if you need me, but don't hesitate." He flexed his arm, testing the fit. "It's cool. Feels like a secret agent gadget." I managed a smile. "Your own personal backup." Saturday morning came too fast. The meeting spot was the parking lot of the Meijer on 8 Mile. Cameras everywhere, people around. Hard to argue it wasn't public. I arrived 20 minutes early, parked near the entrance, and waited with the engine running. Jamal sat beside me, backpack on his lap, chatting about what he wanted to build first with the Lego set still waiting, unopened at home. I listened, nodding, but my eyes stayed on the clock. Darnell's black Dodge Charger pulled in exactly on time. Him at the wheel! Terrence, his younger brother, in the passenger seat, leaning forward to wave. Jamal gave me a quick hug, promised to text when he could, and hopped out. I watched him walk over, climb into the back, buckle up. They waved as they drove off toward the exit. The agreed plan was straightforward. Quick lunch at a family restaurant on Livernois, then the park near the Detroit River for games and a small cake. Back by 4 sharp. I went home and tried to stay productive. Laundry, emails, anything to keep my hands busy. I checked the watch app every 30 minutes. Normal pings around restaurants and parks, nothing unusual. Then just past 2, my phone buzzed hard on the counter. Red alert banner. SOS triggered. Live location streaming. Moving away from the riverfront, heading straight toward Darnell's apartment in East Point. I didn't think. I grabbed keys, purse, phone, and was in the car before the chime finished. Driving, I dialed 911. The operator answered immediately. I'm reporting a violation of a court-ordered custody agreement. My son Jamal is with his father under a temporary visitation schedule that requires all activities in public locations. His emergency device just activated, and GPS shows they're taking him to a private residence instead. He's 11 years old. She took the details calmly. Names, case reference, current location feed I read off the app. Units are being dispatched. Stay on the line if possible, ma'am. I'm en route now. Tell them I'll be there soon. The street's blurred. I stayed under the speed limit, just enough not to get pulled over, hands white on the wheel. Every red light felt eternal. I turned onto Darnell's street 15 minutes later. 2 patrol cars were already there, parked at the curb. Officers standing on the front steps speaking with someone at the door. I slammed the car into park and ran up the walkway. One officer turned, hand raised cautiously. Ma'am, are you the mother? Yes, Keisha. Is Jamal okay? He's inside, unharmed. We're addressing the location violation. The door opened wider. Darnell stood there, arms crossed, looking defensive. Terrence lingered farther back in the entryway. Then Jamal appeared, backpack slung over one shoulder, watch still on his wrist. His eyes found mine, and he bolted out the door straight to me. I caught him, held him close. He was trembling slightly. They said you couldn't make it, and we should just stay here, he whispered against my shoulder. I'm here, I said. Always. The officer took brief statements, reviewed the custody order on his tablet, confirmed the agreed public locations. Darnell started. We only thought. The officer interrupted politely. Sir, the order is clear. Public venues only for this period. We'll document the deviation. I didn't engage. I just kept my arm around Jamal. After notes and IDs were checked, the officer nodded to me. You can take him home. Report filed. I buckled Jamal in, started the engine. In the mirror, I saw Darnell on the porch, stone-faced. Terrence looking away. Jamal was silent for the first mile, then quietly. I pressed it when they kept saying you forgot to come. You did exactly right. We stopped for ice cream from Treat Dreams on the way home, even though neither of us was hungry. Something normal. The watch had captured everything. And now the police report backed it up. He had crossed the line for good. The officers confirmed the situation on the spot and cleared me to take Jamal home immediately. We drove in relative quiet. Jamal stared out the window, processing the afternoon. I didn't push him to talk. When we pulled into the driveway near Palmer Park, he unbuckled and followed me inside without a word. I locked the door, set his backpack by the stairs, and watched him collapse onto the couch, shoes still on. You want anything? Water, snack? He shook his head. Can I just sit here? Take all the time you need. I left him with the TV remote and went to the kitchen table. My phone was still in my hand, the watch app open to the SOS event. The recording icon pulsed red, untouched since the alert. I plugged in earbuds, sat down and pressed play. The timestamp started the second he pressed the button. Clear as day. Darnell's voice came first, low and commanding. Listen carefully, Jamal. When people ask why you spend more time with me, you say your mama has a lot going on and sometimes forgets things. Terrence's tone next, casual but pointed. It's not lying, man. Your mom gets stressed, and she's not always as stable as she could be. You can tell him that. Darnell again. And if the judge ever talks to you directly, you say you'd feel safer and happier with more time at Dad's place. Just like we practiced. Terrence, lighter now. Simple stuff. Mom forgets to pick me up sometimes. Or, Mom gets upset and yells. Easy. The recording went on. More coaching, gentle repetition, small corrections when Jamal hesitated. His voice, small and unsure at first, repeating the phrases they fed him. Mom forgets. Mom's not stable. I stopped halfway through, handshaking now. I exported the file to my cloud storage, downloaded a local copy to my laptop, uploaded a third to a secure drive. Then I emailed the original with full timestamp and metadata to Shanice Mitchell. Subject: audio evidence from today's visitation violation. Urgent. Her response pinged back fast. Got it. Downloading now. Do not delete or alter. We'll discuss strategy tomorrow morning. I set the phone down and looked toward the living room. Jamal had fallen asleep on the couch, one arm dangling off the edge. Evening turned to night. The doorbell rang just after 7. I checked the peephole. Rochelle, my best friend since nursing school, standing there with a pizza box in one hand and a grocery bag in the other. I let her in. She hugged me tight. No words needed at first. I came as soon as I got your message. How's Jamal? Asleep on the couch. He's okay, physically. She glanced over, face softening. Let him rest. We'll talk. We took the pizza to the kitchen. Rochelle set it down and pulled out her laptop from her bag. Show me what you have so far. I played the recording for her, volume low. Her expression hardened with every word from Darnell and Terrence. When it ended, she exhaled sharply. This is coaching. Straight up parental alienation. I know. Shanice has it now. Good. But we need the full picture. Rochelle opened her email and text archives on her screen. I've kept everything too. Let's pull it all together. We worked side by side for hours. I pulled up old threads from my phone and computer, emails from Darnell demanding access to Jamal's college savings statements, texts after every minor school issue suggesting more time with him would help Jamal focus better. Terrence's messages were more recent, casual but pointed. Photos of their family dinners with captions like "Wish Jamal was here more often," followed by questions about the trust fund balance and when it would mature. Rochelle found a chain from 2 years back where Darnell sent investment advice for the trust, insisting I move it to an account he could monitor. When I refused, he followed up with, I'm only trying to protect my son's future. You're being selfish. We printed the key exchanges, highlighted dates and phrases showing the pattern. Financial pressure, parenting doubt, repeated attempts to insert himself into decisions. By midnight, we had digital folders organized by year and type, physical printouts stacked neatly. Everything searchable, time-stamped, ready for Shanice. Rochelle closed her laptop. This shows years of build-up, not a one-off. Exactly. She stayed the night in the guest room. Jamal stirred once around 2 a.m., came padding into the kitchen for water. I met him there, gave him a glass, rubbed his back. Bad dream. Just thirsty. Go back to sleep. I'm right here. He nodded and shuffled back to the couch. I returned to the table, stared at the folders. The audio was the smoking gun. The history was the motive. He had scripted my son to betray me. But now, every word was recorded, every attempt documented, and we were far from done building the case. 2 months later, the full hearing unfolded in the Frank Murphy Hall of Justice in downtown Detroit, the Wayne County Family Courthouse. The building was imposing, stone columns, high ceilings, the weight of every case ever decided they're pressing down. I'd been inside twice before for preliminary hearings. This time felt different. Final. I arrived early, dressed simply but professionally. Navy blazer, white blouse, slacks. Shanice Mitchell at my side, carrying a thick binder and her leather briefcase. Jamal was at school. The judge had ruled he didn't need to be present for this. We took our seats at the petitioner's table. Across the aisle, Darnell sat with his lawyer, a man in a gray suit who kept shuffling papers and whispering. Terrence sat in the gallery behind them, arms crossed. They avoided eye contact with me. The judge entered. Honorable Patricia Washington, A black woman in her 60s with silver locks pulled back and reading glasses perched on her nose. She'd been on the bench for 20 years, known for being firm but fair. She reviewed the file briefly, then opened the proceedings. "Good morning. This is a custody modification petition filed by Mr. Darnell Johnson seeking primary physical custody of the minor child, Jamal Johnson, currently in the primary custody of Ms. Keisha Johnson. We're here today to review evidence and determine what arrangement serves the best interest of the child. Ms. Mitchell, you may begin." Shanice stood, buttoning her blazer. She went first, laying out our position calmly and methodically. She started with the device from the Lego set. The forensic report was entered as Exhibit A, professional analysis confirming it was a post-manufacturer edition capable of real-time audio transmission and GPS tracking. Chain of custody documented from my sealed bag to the independent lab in Ann Arbor. Your Honor, this device was deliberately installed in a gift given to an 11-year-old child by his own father. It was hidden, functional, and actively transmitting. This was not a safety measure. This was covert surveillance. Next came the watch recording. Shanice played key segments in open court, the timestamps visible on the screen projected for everyone. Darnell's direct instructions. Terrence's persuasive encouragement, both guiding Jamal to memorize and repeat phrases designed to portray me as forgetful, emotionally unstable, neglectful. Judge Washington listened intently, occasionally pausing the playback to make notes. Her expression remained neutral, but I saw her jaw tighten during Darnell's voice. "You say your mama forgets things." Then the communication history. Shanice displayed projected screenshots. Years of emails from Darnell requesting financial details about the trust fund, texts questioning my parenting choices after every small issue, messages from Terrence referencing Aunt Lorraine's money as a resource the family should utilize wisely. Patterns highlighted. Repeated attempts to access accounts. Insinuations of inadequacy. Suggestions that Jamal would benefit from more time under Darnell's care, always tied back to money, control, oversight. Shanice connected the dots. This was an isolated concern for a child's welfare. This was a sustained campaign of control, culminating in illegal surveillance and direct coaching of a minor to provide scripted statements against his primary caregiver. The motive is transparent. Access to the $175,000 trust fund established by the child's great-aunt, currently protected under Ms. Johnson's sole trusteeship. Darnell's attorney argued grandparent. No, wait. He argued parental rights, concern for the child's well-being, lack of intent to harm. He tried to downplay the device as a safety tool purchased from Amazon and the recording as misunderstood guidance, taken out of context. But the evidence was concrete, physical, recorded, timestamped, public record of the visitation violation, forensic analysis, coaching caught word for word, closing statements were short. Shanice emphasized the deliberate coordination, planning the surveillance, violating visitation terms to create opportunity, coaching specific language for potential court use, all aimed at gaining influence over Jamal and his protected trust fund, established by a black woman who worked 35 years in Detroit public schools to secure her great-nephew's future. That legacy deserves protection. The judge recessed for deliberation. We waited in the hallway. Shanice reviewed notes. I drank bad coffee from the vending machine, watched people come and go, other families, other battles. Less than an hour later, we were called back in. Judge Washington spoke clearly from the bench, looking directly at Darnell first, then at me. The evidence presented demonstrates a pattern of behavior that goes beyond reasonable parental concern. The installation of an unauthorized surveillance device in a child's gift, the violation of court-ordered visitation parameters, and the recorded coaching of the minor to make negative statements about the custodial parent constitutes serious interference with parental rights and child well-being. She paused, adjusted her glasses. This is not a single lapse in judgment. This is a coordinated plan with systematic steps designed to undermine the mother's custody and gain access to the child's financial resources. Such actions amount to parental alienation and present a clear risk to the child's psychological health and sense of security. She denied the petition for custody modification in full. I was granted sole legal and physical custody, exclusive decision-making authority, no required consultation. The existing visitation schedule was modified, supervised visits only, at a court-approved facility in Wayne County, twice monthly, 2 hours each. No overnight stays. No private residence visits. Supervision mandatory until further court review in 12 months. Restraining orders were issued immediately. No direct or indirect contact with Jamal outside supervised visits. No phone calls, messages, social media, or approaching within 500 feet of his home, school, or activities. Any violation would trigger contempt proceedings and possible criminal charges. The trust fund remained under my sole control as trustee, untouched, protected, growing for Jamal's future education, just as Aunt Lorraine intended. Court adjourned. I walked out into the bright Detroit afternoon, down the courthouse steps onto St. Antoine Street, feeling lighter than I had in years. The practical fallout was swift and permanent. I blocked every no number and email associated with Darnell and Terrence that same day. Updated emergency contacts at Jamal's school, the middle school near Palmer Park where he'd started 6th grade. Updated records at the pediatrician's office on Woodward. Changed online account passwords, security questions, 2-factor authentication on everything. 3 weeks later, we moved to a new house. Not far, still Detroit, still the same school boundaries for continuity, but across town in the historic Boston Edison neighborhood. Tree-lined streets, solid brick homes, neighbors who looked out for each other. New paint on the walls, new routines. Jamal picked his own bedroom color, blue and gold, his favorite. Wolverine's colors, he said, even though he was still years from thinking about college. He bounced back steadily. The first month, he had occasional questions. Will I ever see Dad again? But therapy sessions twice a week with Dr. Angela Freeman, a Black woman therapist who specialized in family trauma, helped him process the confusion and betrayal. By the second month, he was building elaborate Lego creations without hesitation, inviting friends over from school, talking about basketball tryouts, and joining the robotics club. The trust fund continued growing quietly in its conservative investments. Managed by a financial advisor Aunt Lorraine had chosen years ago, a brother from the old neighborhood who'd made good and never forgotten where he came from. Waiting for whatever college or path Jamal chose down the line. Morehouse, Howard, MIT, wherever his dreams took him. No more unexpected knocks at the door. No more loaded text messages about family obligations. No more veiled comments about money or my ability to parent. The silence from Darnell's side was absolute, and it remained that way. People sometimes ask if I feel guilty for cutting off my son's father. The answer is simple, no. Not when the alternative was allowing gradual erosion of my son's trust, his security, his relationship with his mother, and his inheritance from a Black woman who sacrificed to give him opportunities she never had. Because here's the truth I learned through all this. Sometimes the people who share your blood, who should protect you, are the ones capable of the deepest damage. Protecting your child can require severing those ties completely. No halfway measures. No lingering hope for change. No putting family reputation above your child's safety. And the greatest tools you have in that fight are solid evidence and the legal system, imperfect as it is, especially for Black women navigating family court, especially in cities like Detroit where the system has failed so many of us. But documentation is power. Evidence is protection. Your voice, recorded and timestamped, becomes undeniable. Gather everything. Document relentlessly. Trust the process, but verify every step. If you're in a similar situation, whether it's Detroit, Atlanta, Houston, Chicago, Baltimore, anywhere, know you're not alone. There are lawyers who look like us, who understand the unique pressures Black mothers face. There are therapists who can help your child heal. There are communities that will stand with you. Stand firm. Protect your child. Protect your peace. And never apologize for choosing your son's future over anyone's feelings, not even his father's. Because at the end of the day, that trust fund, that's not just money. That's Aunt Lorraine's legacy. That's generational wealth. That's a Black woman's dream for the next generation. And nobody gets to take that away.